Good morning, class. And as we all know, we've been talking about JavaScript ever since. That's the third part of this program, and it's also the current you know phase we are in now. So by now, I believe we all know what an API is, how it works, the different kind of APIs out there, and we also understand the whole concept of how the APIs process a request and also get a particular response. So all that knowledge we already know now. So for this class, we'll be focusing on API still, but we'll be seeing this in a practical format. We'll get to see how the APIs really work. That's practically and not with all that long story. So now we are on our VS Code, and you know what we always begin with. I'll create a folder for this class. Probably just call this our dictionary. So what we'll be making here is actually a dictionary app, and we'll be making use of a dictionary API online, and I'll show you how to do that. So next we'll create our HTML, which is index.html. We have our boilerplate, then we have our CSS, and lastly our JavaScript, which is also important, main.js. So now we have the three files that we need for this project. So the next thing I'll do is to link all this with our HTML. We already know how to do this. Next are JavaScript. Okay, looks like I'm missing a symbol here. Yeah, we have this now.
Ha! You don't reach your size, Malga.
It just happens once in a while. But anyway, we fix that. So the next thing I'll be doing now is for this project, I'll be making use of some Google fonts, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So I'll go back to my browser, and here I'll go to the Google search engine. Here I'll type in Google fonts, and you can see it displays this font.google knowledge here. But if we click this, we have this page. But what is our concern here is actually the font and not the knowledge. So we'll go to this menu, and here we have all the Google fonts, you know, that are out there. So for this project, I'll be making use of two fonts. The first is the Poppins. That's this right here. Okay, so we have the Poppins font now. Okay, I think I had this before. Let me just delete all this. So we do not have any fonts now. So this particular font actually has different styles here. So we just select the one that we need for this project. So the fonts I need from Poppins is the extra bold 800. I'll select this. We also need, where is it? The light 300. I'll take this too. And lastly, we would need the medium 500. So I'll select this. So now if I click on this menu, you would see that we have the different styles under the poppins we just selected. That's these three. And so I'll look for the next one. And the next font will be the Josephine Sands. Yeah, this one. So for this one, we'd also have three font styles we'd select. And I would pick the medium 500, also the 400, which is the regular one, and lastly the light 300. And if we go back to this menu we have here, you can see that we have the new fonts we just picked and also the poppins we had before. They are all here. So I'm going to copy these fonts into our project, and you can see that appearing here in this link. So this link here is a link that would actually reference, it would actually make our project enable this, fonts there. So I'll copy this link, and going back to our VS Code, we would have it directly under our CSS. So now we have this link here. So on a normal day, I actually believe that this actually works, but we could still test it if it works. And I'll just quickly go with a quick paragraph, say hello world. We'll just give this a class P1. I will go to our css.p1, just give this a font size, say 30 pixels. Okay, so it's taking quite some time to load. I don't know if that's because of, okay, so we have this now. As you can see, it's hello world, but the poppins I just added isn't appearing here, and that's because we've not added it to the style. And so for us to do that, I'll go back to our browser, and below this you would see the CSS rule for these specific families, and you can see the one for the Josephine sans and the poppies sans serif. So if I want to make use of the poppins, all I need to do is copy this, and then in our CSS I would add this here. You could obviously still type this out, manually, but then copying it is faster. And now we should go back, we should see our text. So now you can see that the text appears in a different font and not the default Times New Roman. So that's how you use Google Fonts. And also, before I go, if we want to use a particular style of this font, very easy. In our index file, we added the poppins 300, 500, and 800. So this means that for our font weight, we can only use any of these figures. So if I come here and I say font weight, I give this the largest, which is 800. You would see that the boldness of this would actually increase. I can see how bold it is very thick. So that's how you could actually make use of Google Fonts. Anyway, this is not part of our project, so I'll take this out. So for our project, let's begin. So we begin with a heading one, and I'll call this my dictionary. I'd also give this a class name which we would use to style, you know, the text. I'll call this head. Next we have a div. This div is where the entire, dictionary will be. And so for this div, give this a class of container. Yeah, container. Also, we have
Excellent,
another.
sir. Your screen is not
Okay, is the screen showing?
it's not showing. No, it isn't.
Okay, okay, no problem. Okay, so I said we would have our dictionary directly inside this div that we can see on the screen. So the next thing our dictionary would have would be a search box. Of course, we need a search box, a box where we would, input at the word we want to look for. So this div here would have a class search underscore box. And inside this div, that's this one we just created, we are going to have two elements there. First, we'll have our input. You know what the input is for? It's the space where the user would actually type out something. So the type here will be a text type, and we'd also give it a placeholder. The placeholder is like the text that the user meets there, a descriptive text of what that field is about. So this would be type your word here. And also I'll give this an ID because we will need this later on. So this will be the input or word. Next, I'll create a button, and this button is through which once we click on it, we should get the meaning of that word we are looking for. So we have an ID of search underscore button. Okay, so far, I guess this is what we have here now. So add the button here. Oh no, I call this search. Yeah. So next I'll create another div. And this div is, this is what's going to hold the entire thing we just searched for, the entire result. So I'll call this, give this a class name of result, and also an ID of result too, because some of these things will be connected to JavaScript, and most times we would make use of the get element by ID. So it's the reason why we have this ID here. So next we have another div. The divs are quite important. Class of word. This div would hold the word we just searched for. So for now, I'll just give this a random, sample word. I'll call this testing. Next, we have another div again. And this one will hold the details of the word we just searched for. So I'll call this details, which would be the class name. Then a p tag. This would represent the part of speech for the word. And also, I would like to have the phonetic symbol. Ah, some of all these things I know looks weird, but trust me, when we get to the API part, you know why I actually had this, default text here. So lastly, we'd have a paragraph which would have the word meaning. Class here will be word meaning, meaning of that word. So for this, I'll just have a lorem text, which is a random text generator. Also, we'll have another p tag which will hold the example, of the word we just searched for. So this will be word example. We'll also give this a default lorem text. Okay, and one last thing, we would add, another p tag which I'll just call example, which is to show that what we have here is an example. It's going to be a descriptive text. Just give this a class name of example. And yeah, we have a HTML for our dictionary. Now let's see how it looks like. So this looks very, very weird. Very weird. I'll probably reduce it so I can see everything at once here. So this is what it looks like. So the next thing we do is to make this actually appear well. So we'll go back to our CSS and we begin styling. So I'm making use of the asterisk selector, and you know that the asterisk selector here represents the entire HTML document. So whatever I use this to style, it will actually affect the styling of every element. And for this, I'll give this a margin of 0, also a padding of 0, and we'll have a box sizing. This would be border box. We know what the border box is. With this, it would actually embed any margin and padding within the entire width of the element. Yeah, so this is what our HTML looks like once I just did that. So next I'll give this a background body tag. The background here, I'll be making use of a linear gradient. I know we did not teach this, but the linear gradient here allows you to mix multiple colors as a background. So we'd have a linear gradient that would appear in 90-degree, which is 90 DEG, and then we'll define the colors we want. So I'm making use of the RGBA 65, 9, and 121. We also add an opacity of 0.7, and this would be 50%. Next, we'll have our next color, which will also be an RGBA color. This would be 0, 212, 255. It's an opacity of 0.7 still, and this one will be 100%. If I save this now, we'll get to see a different kind of background. Yes, something exactly like this. So this one here is 50%, and this light blue here is actually 100%. So this 50%, this background here is covering 50% of this entire blue background, which is why we have here to be purple and this side to be blue. So next we'll start, you know, continue styling. Our heading, give this a text align of center. Take this to the middle. So give this a font family. Now remember we added poppins into, our code. So this will be poppins sans serif. And this should also work. Okay, it doesn't. Okay, so this isn't working. I guess I'll just copy it from, you know, the website. I'll give this a color, white smoke, like a white color variant. And a font weight of 800 since we added that. Okay, so it works now. My dictionary, we have it here. So let's move on with the styling. Next is the container. Give this a background color, white. We also have a width 500 pixels. I would also, you know, give the border radius 10 pixels so we do not have a sharp border at the edge. Also a margin, 30 pixels up and down, and left and right will be auto. So by setting this to auto, we would have the entire container in the middle. And this is exactly what it looks like. So we have a 30 pixel margin up and down, and we have automatic margin left and right. So let's continue with the rest. So I'll give this a padding to 60 pixels top, bottom, and 50 pixels. Alright. Okay, so it looks better now. Next, our search box. For search box, I'll give this a display of flex. I would also give this a width of 100%. That's 100% of the area they are taking. Specify content will be space between, so we do not have them close together. This is what it would look like now. Yeah, so you can see our input field has a space separating it from the button. Search box. Now we'll start our input field. Give this a padding 5 pixels, a width of 70%. That's 70% of this entire 100% we have here. Next, for the border, I don't want any border, so we have none. And the outline would also be none. So what this outline basically is when you click on this, when you click on this input, you would notice that it would kind of highlight the entire box here. But here, because I set it to none, you can't see any box once we type any text. But if we actually remove this outline and I save this, you can see that it shows this entire color here. So that's what the outline is. So I don't want the outline to be none. So I want to add a border button to this. This will be 3 pixels, solid, RGBA. I still have this color available here. The font size, I think that's necessary. Okay, so let's see what it looks like here. This is exactly how I want it to be. So next we'll start the button. So it will be dot search box, the button itself. And this button width will take 25% of the space. Now remember, this is taking 25%, this is taking 70%. So it means altogether they are both taking 95% of this 100% here, with only 5% of space left. So that's how we have it with the button. Also give the button a background to be a linear gradient also. We've made use of that before, so I'll just go to where we have this and I'll copy this color. Okay, so we have this. Let's see if it works. Yes, it works. Okay, I want this to be 90 degrees. Okay, I don't know why this isn't working. Okay, so I'll probably just need to copy the entire color here. Should be a linear gradient. Okay, let's give this a color white smoke. So give this a padding 15 pixels. 0. Other radius will be 10 pixels. And we'll have the font family. Now for this font family, I'll make use of the other one.
Ah, what happened? Mr. Eliza, we've lost you.
Oh, okay. So I guess here is meant to be 90 degrees DG with a comma. Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is with the font family, and that's Josephine. Okay, we have that here. Okay, I guess I'll just go to the website to do this. So this is Josephine sans serif. I hope you all can see the screen.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, okay, Josephine sans serif. Next, I will add a font size to be 20 pixels. Font weight will be 500. So the button would be bold, but not too bold. Okay, yeah. Okay, the color here is black. I don't like the black border. So the border here will be none. Okay, so we do not have any borders now. Wow. Okay, I guess we continue styling then. What else is left? After the button, we have the result. Okay, the result is what's next. Okay, before we do that, let me just add a hover to this. The hover would have a different background, which is a linear gradient anyway. 90 degrees. Let's still make use of this. One. This instead of 0.7 would be 1. Okay, yeah, it works. Okay, so the styling is quite a lot, but let's just quickly do the rest. So dot result, position of the result will be relative, and dot result h3. I guess it's h3 we have here. Yes, h3. Font size would be 50 pixels. Color will also be linear gradient. Yeah, I guess it doesn't work, so we just go with RGBA instead. Font family will be Poppins. I think we have that before. Yes, we have this font weight would be 800. I remember we also have 100 in our HTML. Next now style dot result dot word. Okay, so let me just show you guys how this looks now. This is exactly how we have this text. 800 worth of boldness. So give this a display of flex. Justify content space between. I don't want them together. Margin top 40 pixels. Next, we touch the detail part. Results details. Oh, it's actually dot details. Display also flex too. Give this a margin, or would say a gap of 10 pixels. So the gap here will create a space between, the text elements under this dot details, and this is what it looks like. This particular space you have between part of speech and phonetic, this space here is actually done with this gap property. So moving on, we give this a color, the RGBA one, this particular light blue neon color. Also give this a margin. We'll give this different margin, 5 pixels, 0, 20 pixels, 0. So you should know that this is actually top, is it top right, bottom left? Yeah, I think so. Top right, bottom left. Also a font size of 20 pixels should do. And the font family would be popping sans serif. The font weight would be 300. We had that too. Okay, so this is what we have now. So what other thing is left? Our word dot meaning or underscore meaning, yes. So dot word meaning will also have its own style.
This network, just dey do anyhow.
Have I gone off again? Um, I don't know. Have I gone off? Doesn't happen again. Okay, so after the color for the word meaning, I'll give this a font family.
We can't see your screen for now.
Wow. Ah,
Can't see.
I can see the screen. I can see the screen.
Screen is displaying now already. It's back.
okay, it's back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope the network doesn't just go.
Will the recording continue like that? Will it continue?
Well, I'm afraid so. We have to continue that way.
Ah,
Don't worry, it would be stable very soon. All these are just basic styling. We've not got into the JS part. Sans serif, word meaning, font weight will be 400, font size 23 pixels. Okay, so we're almost done with the styling. So what is left is the example and yes, that's the example and word example. That's what's left. So dot example gives a margin top 30 pixels, font size of 20 pixels, font family. It will be Josephine sans serif. It gives a font weight too. This should be bold but not too bold, just 300. So a color, I think we still have the RGBA 0.7. Then the margin bottom would be 0. I don't want any margin at all below. Okay, I think the very last one, the word example. Color, the RGBA color. Font style, I want this to be italic. Okay, we would only give this a border left to be 5 pixels solid. RGBA. Yeah, the neon blue color. Yeah, I think we are almost done with that. What else do we have? Oh, a font family, of course. This would also be popping sans serif. Font weight 500. Use a margin top 10 pixels. The font size in 3 pixels. So I guess that's that for now. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so this is too big. We use this. This is exactly how we have our dictionary to look like. So not to worry, we've actually done the layout of how we want the entire, structure to be like when we search for the word. So before I go, I add a padding left. It's too close to the border between pixels. Okay, yes, so this is better. So before I move on to the JavaScript, what this basically represents here is the format of how our dictionary will be displayed. So this testing here is where we'll have our word. Here we'll have the part of speech. We already know what that is in English. Noun, pronoun, you know, adjective and all those. Here we'd have the phonetic symbol. Here we would have the meaning of the word. And here we'd have an example where that word is being used. So I guess that's that with CSS. So back to our JavaScript. I would use a constant declaration, and now we are going to get a URL endpoint. So I'll call this URL, and this would be assigned to the API we want to communicate with. So for this, I would go to the browser and back to Google. I'll get the dictionary API, and this is a free dictionary API that you can see here. So if I click this now, you can see the website. So this is the link to their API, or what you would call the API endpoint. So I'll copy this link into our JavaScript
I don't see any link over here. I'm only my phone. Same here.
here. Yes. So here we have
Sir,
the
please go back. How you get there? No, sir, you didn't. You have not.
so this is the Google search engine, and you just type the dictionary API. Now it will show you all this you can see on Google. Here I just clicked on the free dictionary API, and you can see that this has a link here and here. So I'll copy this link. Although before I do this, already the API has been integrated on this website. So if I should type any word here, let's say soccer, and I click the search button, you can see this text on the screen on this black background. That's this entire text we are seeing. You can see it's all in JSON format. So this is exactly what we'll be getting as our response when we make use of the API. So let's not waste time. I would copy this link here. Now I'm not going to copy where we have the hello. We don't need this hello word here. We don't need that. We only need the actual link which stops here. So I just copy this, go back to our main.js, and I put this here. But of course, this should be in a string format. So I have this string here. I would also have the double quotes here. So now we have it as a string. Next thing I'll be doing will be the constant declaration for the result. So this result here, I'll connect this variable name called result to our HTML. Now remember, in the HTML we had a div here that had the ID of results, this particular div. So I'll connect it to that div, and you know how we do that with our document dot get element by ID. And here we'd have in the parentheses the ID name of result. That's how I do that. Next, we need to also connect the button, because the button itself is what would really make us search for that word we are looking for. So this will be a constant declaration of btn, a variable name, and this will be equals to the document get element by ID. We already know this, we are familiar with this. Now connect this with our button ID, which is search underscore button. And we have this search button. So far so good. This is all we need for the declaration now. So the next thing now is to, put the particular functions that will make the whole process work. And so I'll reference our button by the variable name btn. Now remember, we treated event and event listeners. And so event listeners are the things that help you process a particular action to happen. When a user takes a particular action, some list of events that you want to happen, you can do that with the event listener. So the event listener here would be add event listener. And for this, we would add obviously the click event to our button. Click. So what we'll have next will be the function, and it's going to be an arrow function. So we have this. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll create a variable name that would hold the value that we just typed out on the on the screen. So I'll say let input word. Now this input word here, which is this variable name, it will hold the actual thing we just typed on the input field. By that I mean this input field here, this particular one, what we typed here is what will connect it to. And so in order to do that, this will be document.get element by id. So now we need the id of the input field itself. I hope you all are following.
Please come again, sir.
I hope we all are following. Okay.
A little step backward.
Okay, a little step backward, no problem. So I just declared these three variables. One of them holds the API that we're going to connect to, which is this link here.
Yes, after the declaration.
Okay, so after the declaration, I said we learned about something called event listeners in one of the previous classes. And these event listeners are used to perform a particular series of events when a user makes an action. Now, this action can be as simple as clicking something, scrolling, typing, anything is an action. So for this action, we want the click action, which is what would affect this button here. You see this search button that I just hovered on, the click action when you click on it. So we want it, when you type the word kitchen here, when you click on this search button, it should display the results right here. So that's what we are doing now. So I made use of the add event listener with the click action, and the next thing it follows is the arrow function, which is where we would have the list of events to be performed. Mhm. So I said for we to connect this input field, to this button, we can do that here. That's with this input word variable name that we just created. After declaring it with the let keyword, we'll connect this with the input field ID. You can see the ID here is input underscore word. So we need this ID. Copy it, and we have it here. Dot get.
Okay, sorry, sir. Your variable name is going camel case. What query?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I don't really know if that's necessary, but anyway, don't worry. Let's just do that. So it will be,
But there is no space there.
yeah, it's actually okay anyway. So I just use camel case for this.
As long as it's not error indicated, it's fine.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's true. But since he has said so, let's just make everything that way. So the results, this will be URL. Okay, so I guess we are good. So the next thing I'll do now is to test if the word we've actually typed out works, is actually working behind the scenes. So I'll use the console.log to do this. Here would have the input word. So if I save this now and go back to our file, now I'm going to inspect this whole page. and you can see how it is like this. We have our, you know, app here, and on this end we have the other functionalities of the browser. So for this, I'll click on the console. Let's type in any word. Let's just say kitchen. If I search this, it doesn't go, nothing appears. Let's hope we saved all those. Okay.
You didn't change the variable name before the add event listener, the BTN.
Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, so that's why this didn't work. Okay, so I guess we are good now. So let me try the word kitchen here. You could actually try any word. It should return something. Okay, yes, so it returns this input field. So this means that we've connected this correctly. But we actually want only the kitchen to appear and not the entire element. And so to do that, I will add dot value, and this would return just the word. So I should reload this page. Let's just type kitchen. It should return kitchen exactly. Type any other word, player, should return it, name. Okay, so now we have the following words. So this means that it works. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect these words, to the API, so it can actually search through its system and then give us the meaning, part of speech, and all those important things we need. Okay, and so to do that, I'll take this off. We don't need this anymore, just for testing. Now we have this. So next we'll be making use of what we call a fetch method. Now, this fetch method is actually one of the most modern ways of, making HTTP requests to a server, you know, through your web browser. So if you want to connect to a server online through your web browser, most times you would make use of the fetch method. And so this method has, a URL and some other parameters you can add to it. But already we've defined our URL here. That's this. Okay, so we wouldn't be doing that again. All we just need to do here, we'll add this symbol, and next we'll add the dollar sign. The dollar sign and the curly braces is one of the ways you can, connect with some of these variable names instead of putting it directly. So you'd have your URL here, URL. Next, we'd also have another dollar sign, and this one will be for our input word, which we have here. So this will be input word. Now we have both of them. Now the fetch method has something called a dot then method. That's this. And what this does is that with this method, we can actually handle the kind of response we are getting. Yes. So this is what we allow us handle what the API has sent back to us, the way we want it to be. We handle it using this method. So here we are going to handle two things. We are going to handle our response from the, API, and that's this URL here. And would also handle the data we would get. That's both of them. And so for this, I'll create another parenthesis. This will be response. We'll have be an arrow function and to be to response.json, because we want it to be in JSON, be response.json. And for the next one, which is the input word, be then. I guess by default, it has this data keyword data. So we would also try it out in the console.log data. Okay, so we have this now. So the next thing I would like to check is if this actually works. So let me type the word kitchen again. Okay, and this sends us, you can see it here, JSON native code, but we don't want it to be in this way. So I guess we are not doing something right. Okay, yeah, this is supposed to be a JSON method with the parentheses behind this. So, so I should type our word again, kitchen. Aha. So this returns everything about the word. So this actually means that our API is working. You can see the word here is kitchen with the phonetic symbol and meaning, license, phonetics, and some other things about the word. Now all these are objects and they are objects within objects. You can see the license here has its own object, the meaning has its own object, the phonetic has its own object. If I click on this, you can see the part of speech, noun, it has another part of speech or verb, and every other thing the word could have, they are all listed here. Okay, so now that the API works, let's integrate it into, making it visible on our HTML. So to do this, I'll go back to our HTML, which is this file, and I'm going to copy this. That's from this word we have here to this P tag. We'll cut it out. And so the reason we are cutting it out is actually because the I don't want anything to appear there until I search for a word. So if I save this now and we go back to our, you can see here we only have type your word here and search. We do not have all those information just yet. So I only want those things to show when I search for something and not when I haven't searched for anything. So in order to do that, we'll go back to our JS and then we'll add something here. So for this console.log, which we just used to test, we don't need this anymore. Remove this. Okay, this will be dot then. This one is actually, this then method is to handle the data we are getting. So be inside the then method, we have our data with an arrow function, and inside this arrow function is where we'll have everything that is to happen. So the first thing I want to have here is the console.log. At least let's know that it actually appears in our console. So we'll console.log the data. Now the next thing we'll do here is to connect with the results. Remember we have this result we declared here. That's on this line. And this result here connects with this result ID name. That's this one here. And if you remember in our HTML, the result ID name is what we have here. So you can see that in this space, it's empty. So what this means is that we'll connect this ID name to our JS. And when we search for something, what will be displayed here, that's in this space now, not in this our code editor anyway, but on the browser, is actually what we'll have when we connect to this result. Okay, so I know it sounds a bit complex, but this is what I mean.
Complex. Oh.
Okay, don't worry. Okay, so remember the results variable name result, and you know, in order to change a particular text content of any element, we would always say dot inner html, right? Yes. So this will be assigned this, this character, which is used to actually used to add HTML elements to our JavaScript. It's one of the ways you can have direct HTML elements into your JS. So inside this is where we would have our HTML. That's this element we just cut from here. So we have this here. So let me just quickly do some indentation to this. Okay, so this is very easy to understand. You can see in our HTML, this space is empty here. And now we have two things that we can use to connect with this class name and this ID name we have here, which is also result. Now what this will do is that because we've connected to this result with this variable name, that's result here, and mind you, result.inner.html already has all these HTML elements. So this basically means that whenever we click that button, we will always have this text being displayed on the screen. So this is what it looks like actually. So now we have our dictionary to be this way. Remember, this is being rendered directly by this HTML here, our index.html. You can see there's a space here, there's nothing here, it's empty. So this renders correctly. You can see we only have the input field and the button. And the input field and the button is here inside this search box. This is where we have it. So what I'm basically saying is whenever I click on this button, this btn.event listener with the click symbol, this button holds everything that would happen. The fetching, the sending of the data to our console, and also displaying this HTML elements we have here. It will do everything once we click on that button. And so if I should type any word again, let's just say soccer, and I click on this search button, you can see all this being displayed. So that's just basically what just happened. Now if I should inspect this page, you will notice that in our console, this particular word soccer has already been generated by the API. You can see it here, word soccer, with its phonetic and everything we would need to display on on our app. So the next thing I will do now is to connect that particular thing we just printed on the console into our HTML. And so in order to do that, I'll make use of one of the ways we can actually connect to that, and that's with the dollar sign and curly braces. It's one of the ways we can connect to anything that was actually sent to us, any data. And so this would have the input word inside. So what this will do is that it's going to show us the word we just searched for. If I save this now, let's just take this out and I type any word here, let me say boy. I click on the search button. We have the boy here. Now, if I should inspect this in our console, we also have boy, which has been generated from our API. It works for every other word. I should say green. See, it has a new array and it also has the word green here from our API. Every kind of word, let's say woman, generates that already. So this means our API is actually working. Man, search, see a new array as popular. So all this actually done by the API we just connected to. So what I'll be doing now is to connect to each of these, some of these details that this, these things we search for actually hold. And so we've added one here, which is the actual word we search. This input word here, that's actually still what is here. It's nothing different. So the next thing I will add is the meaning of the word. I mean, the part of speech and also the phonetic, symbol. So for this part of speech, it will also be dollar sign with curly braces. Inside these curly braces, since we received everything as a data, that's this particular parameter we have here, this data here, that's where everything is actually stored in as. So connect this by saying data using the bracket notation 0. Now this is what I actually mean. Let me just cancel all this and search for a new word. Let's assume we search for knife. So this gives us knife. If I should inspect this on the console, we can see the knife word here. I can see it's an array and it has 0, which is an object being assigned this entire value, which is also an object itself. Yeah. So we'll just open this up to see what we can connect to. And you can see we have 0, which is the object name for everything here. That's all this, all of this. But we only want the part of speech. And so the part of speech would look for where it is within this data we've gotten. So if I should open meaning, you can see we have the part of speech there, and we have the first one to be noun, and we have the one within the second object element to be a verb, but we only need just one. So I'll connect to this one. And so in order to do that, this will be data 0 dot meaning 0 and then dot part of speech. Now let's try it out. It dot meanings 0 dot part of speech. And this is very easy. Once you've gotten this, you can actually get the rest of them that you want to connect to this HTML. So let's see if that works. So let me type the word again, knife. Now we should get, you can see here we have knife and under it we have noun. If you can't see very well, you can see here we now have noun. We do not have part of speech anymore. So now we've actually connected to the noun part of speech part of the entire object. We've connected to it. That's why we have the value of noun. So for the phonetic, it's also the same, nothing different. Okay, so the next thing here is for the phonetic. So let's go back and see where we have it. Oh, this is taking me to source code. Sorry, this is meant to be inspect. Okay, so back to our console where we have, the data that was sent from the API. Inside here, we have the phonetic, that's this, and we have this particular um string here, which represents the phonetic for the word knife. So this will be $sign data 0 dot phonetic. I don't think there's anything before it. This should give us the phonetic symbol of any word. So just say word. I can see now we have the part of speech for the word, which is noun, and also the phonetic symbol. So the next thing we'll be adding here would be the meaning of this particular word and also an example where it is being used. And to do that, it's also the same process, very easy to do. So here we'll also begin. We'll take out this lorem text we have here. We don't need this anymore. So here we'd have the $sign with the curly braces to be data 0 dot. Let me see where we have that, the meaning of the word. So we actually connected to this particular object here, and the meaning is here. Okay, and in the meaning, it actually has something called definitions. So if I should open this first one and open the definitions here, we can see we have different definitions of the particular word we just searched for. So I would only be connecting to just one of them, just one. And in order to do this, this will be 0 data 0 dot meaning, this 0 again, then dot definition, this 0, and then dot this definition we have here.
Hey, no go die here o.
Don't worry, you get the hang of it very
Sir,
soon.
can we even connect to two meanings? Two.
No, yes, you can. But let's just finish this one. This will be meaning 0 dot definitions. I think I still remember it. Yeah, definitions 0, then dot the definition. This is definition, yeah. So we've actually done that. Let me see if it works. So let's search for a word and I'll say football. And you can see it gives us a definition, general definition. A sport played on foot in which teams attempt to score and all the rest. You also have the part of speech which is a noun, and also the what's it called, phonetic symbol. So the last thing I'll be adding would be an example where it is being used. Now, this example for some of the words will not actually show, and this is because some of them don't have examples. So let me search for a word that has an example. I think dog actually has dog. Okay, so it has given us information about the dog. And let's open this object. We open the meaning. Most of them is actually within this meaning. Let me open this first one. Definitions. Let me see if we have an example here. Okay, so we have an example right here. You guys might not be able to see, but I can see an example here. That's where I just highlighted just now. There's an example here. That's the small bluish background you are seeing. So to connect to that example, also very simple, not difficult. So I'll remove this lorem ipsum text we have here, make use of the dollar sign and curly braces. So this will be data zero dot meanings, which zero to, because we are going with the very first meaning and not the entire meaning of the word. And also definitions zero, since we are going with just one definition. And lucky for us, our definition has an example. So this will be dot example. And I think that is actually all we need. Yeah. So let's type the word dog again. Okay, and here we have our dictionary. It gives us the word dog, the part of speech which is a noun, also with the phonetic symbol, the meaning of the word, and a very brief example. The dog barked all night long. So this is very easily how you can actually build a dictionary by making use of a free dictionary API. So one last thing I'll do is to add um, a syntax that would help us catch errors. Because if you know now, if we type in a word like this that doesn't exist, nothing happens. And we wouldn't want nothing to happen, we would want this to return something. So at the end of this line, that's where we have this then method ending, we would add a dot catch. And this is what we would use to catch, you know, any error we have. It's used for handling errors. So inside this method would be our arrow function. We already know how to do this. Then with some curly braces, and we would say the result, we reference the result also dot inner HTML, you know, and this would be a heading 3 element, and we would say couldn't couldn't find the word. It would be, yeah. So this is what we'll have when we have an error message. And so for this I will add a class to be error. Now funny enough, we can actually style this class even directly in our CSS, despite the fact we don't have it in the HTML. And so if I come here in our CSS, I would say dot error to be text align of center. We want it to be at the middle. Okay, what other thing can we add? Okay, let's just say margin top.
Red border.
Okay, red, but don't worry. Okay, we can actually add a red color. That's true. A red border won't be bad. But let me just give it a margin top, 80 pixels. Now just give it this a border of red. Okay, so this should work when we type in a word that doesn't make sense. Just say TYGHN. Okay, and it already says so couldn't find the word. But if I should type in a valid word, say basketball. Yeah, so we have the word basketball with the part of speech, also with the phonetic symbol, the meaning of the word, and the example here is undefined. Now, this is probably because this particular word doesn't have an example. And let's see if that's true. Okay, let's just leave that. So going to the console, the array, basketball, the meaning, definitions. Do we have an example? And no, we do not. So you can see there is no example here. So that's why we actually had that to be undefined. So let's try dog. I think dog has an example. It does. Okay, so it still gives us the dog barked all night. Let's try food, search for food. The innkeeper brought them food and drink. Search for lady, search John Smith and Lady Smith. And let's just say fork is also undefined. So this means there is no example there. But we can escape this with an empty string so it doesn't show undefined. So to do that, I will just add this operator. We already know what this operator would be. This or operator. So this means that either it has this or it should print out this, which is an empty string. So either this will come out, and if this doesn't exist, this here is what we are going to get. So saving this now and searching for something random, we shouldn't see anything like undefined. Yeah, couldn't find the word. I mean, if we were to search for a word that doesn't have an example, we shouldn't see undefined. Okay, so basketball doesn't have an example, so it's empty. Same with, I guess, football is the same too. Okay, so football actually has an example. Roman and medieval football matches were more violent than any modern type of football. Wow. Yeah, that's actually true. Anyway, football was very violent then. So I guess that's that for the dictionary. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope we also have to build a very simple dictionary. So for those that don't have dictionaries on their laptop, you can actually just build this and make use of it anytime you want, in as much as it's connected to the dictionary API. Thank you.